My name's Andrew Tonnies, and this is Hideaway Farm. We live here on 16 acres, and we produce pastured organic grain-fed pork and pastured organic grain-fed broiler chickens. We have a large market garden, so we're selling fresh-cut greens, fruit, and jellies and jams, and flour jellies at the farmers market. One in Omaha and one here in North Bend. Out in my pasture area, there's about 10 acres. I have it divided into 8 paddocks, and each one is around an acre, more or less. As a general rule of thumb, if we get timely rains, I'll leave them out on a paddock, 20 pigs on a paddock for a month, and before I'll think about moving them. And I'll also time it with the rainfall, because I'm going to come back and put down a cover crop on any of the ground that those pigs have rooted up, so that we don't just get a bunch of weeds growing there, which is still going to happen. Like, as part of adjusting your expectations to what reality is with pasture pigs. You're going to get weeds and you're going to get worked up ground, but you can minimize how much hemp and lamb's quarter and stuff you're going to get. So the goal is that I'm going to have them on one paddock for a month, and then keep moving them and not come back to that paddock. Well, maybe come back to that paddock after that cover crop grows up. I supplement their pasture foraging with organic grain, and that is their favorite time of day. I typically will buy feeder pigs in the winter time, and I keep pushing my dates further back into the winter, just because the way that I raise the pigs, they go slower to get to a market weight that customers are used to. So we started doing this with pigs in March, and our finished weights were always pretty low. So I got this group of pigs back in December and kept them on grain in my barnyard all winter long. And then once we got some moisture and the grass started to green up with some good temperatures, I turned them out on an acre paddock where they've been for the past month. I use a 2-strand hot wire fence for the paddocks and my outside perimeter for the entire pasture area. And in the center of the pasture, I have a welded wire, like galvanized metal wire corral area. And that's where I will feed the pigs. That's where they have their water, and they have a little shelter there. So that's their home base, kind of a sacrifice area. Where they're fed and where they water is going to be where you get the most impact. And so it's good to just pick a spot and let them do their pig stuff there. I think the biggest challenge for right now, this late spring heading into early summer, it's going to start getting real hot here soon, is there's just so much to do. It's exhausting. You just work all day, and it's tough. It's tough to keep up with everything, and you're adjusting your expectations from your early spring optimism and coming back to reality, and like, well, maybe this thing over here is not going to get done, anytime real soon, and learning to be okay with that and focusing in on the stuff that really needs to get done, like fixing fence. I enjoy so many things about the farm. This is Sally. She's my girl. We'll see. She might still want to eat, but I can usually get her some belly rubs, and she'll just fall over. And we'll just hang out with the pigs for a bit and see what pigs are like when you treat them well. Pigs have a reputation for being kind of mean, but a lot depends on how they're treated. And yeah, they're wonderful animals. No one should be afraid of these pigs. Well, it's midsummer, it's hot, it's humid, it's miserable outside. This time of year, I am basically just moving the pigs periodically from one paddock to another. And they've been in their current paddock for about a month, a little over a month maybe. It's always a judgment call when it's time to switch. And with this amount of pigs, this is the most pigs I've raised in one season, so I'm kind of still learning as I'm going through this. So what I'm doing here is trying to bring some feed in here and then call the pigs in, and they're gonna come in. This is the paddock they're in right now. They're gonna come in through this gate. I'm gonna close it. Oh, here they come. So the paddock system that I've developed out there it's not really an original idea. There's quite a few people doing stuff like this. What I have available to me is about 10 acres of brome grass and wood and a seasonally dry creek bottom. So what I've done is to create a center point. That's where their shelter is, that's where their water is, that's where they're used to going to get fed as well. The pigs have lots of shade, and I always make sure they have a wallow with fresh water in it. They've always got cool water to splash around in when it gets super hot, and lay in the water and get covered in mud and just have a great time. Coming off of that center corral, like the spokes of a wheel, each one of these has a gate that can open and close. So this paddock they've been in for about a month, and we're going to move them into this paddock, and this is the gate for it. It's a pretty simple system. So for the last month, there has always been a gate here and no gate there. So now this is a new thing for these pigs, and it takes them a minute. It's a little bit of a trick for them to realize that something is different. And if they don't realize that, like the pig psychology is to get upset and do something about it. So they're just might imagine that there is still a gate here and not realize, and decide to jump over the fence somewhere else, or just like put their nose under there. And I mean, it's a pretty flimsy thing. If they really wanted to go through that, they could get through it. So all of my fencing is very dependent on having happy pigs. Yeah, I know you guys, come on. Oh, shoot. We'll get it back. Come on, guys. Let's get out of the little chute here and get some more space. So this is why you want to do this with a little bit of daylight, because they're going to be exploring, they're going to be hitting that wire because they're not familiar with where it is. And you want to make sure they've got enough daylight that they can see it. So now this is where they have access to, but they always have access to the center. And that's where they always have their shelter, their food, and their water. The idea is it's minimizing how much labor goes into raising pasture pigs, which is a fairly labor-intensive prospect. Another thing that I do this time of year is start adjusting the feed that I give the pigs in terms of volume. The pigs I have, I got, or the big group of pigs, got back in December, and they were too large for what their expected butcher date is going to be. So what I was trying to do is slow them down by restricting how much feed they had. And I think I was successful at that, and I think we're probably on target now. So the last couple of weeks I've been increasing their feed, and they're putting on weight nicely, and I feel like their body condition looks good, and the next few months is just kind of fatten them up, keep them on fresh green stuff that they want to eat, and keep giving them their supplemental feed. And I think it works out to 3.5, 4 pounds of feed per pig per day. So this is the feed I use. It comes from an organic farm outside of Bruno. This is organic corn and organic wheat, provides most of the protein. They grind it up there on site, and they have a mineral mixture that they include that's specific for pigs. And they also throw in a few bales of alfalfa hay. So this shaded area here is where they spent most of their time for the past month. There's also some mulberry trees in here, which they spend all day underneath mulberry trees just waiting for berries to fall. And I don't blame them, because they're really good. So you can see the kind of impact they had here. And honestly, it looks horrible, but I've seen this before, and I have every reason to believe this is going to come back and be just fine for next year. I do also have a cover crop to put down in places like this. I'm still using the warm season pollinator mix. I have the tag here so I could remember what all is in here. We have cowpeas, sun hemp, mung beans, soybeans, buckwheat, sugar beets, sunflower, okra, flax, safflower, watermelon, squash, and mustard. So it's a multi-purpose thing. And it's improving soil health too. Like the more diversity you have in plants, I feel like the better the soil is going to be doing. Getting through, you know, the heat of summer, and fall is my favorite season. So I'm always looking forward to fall. I feel like it's a really productive time of year because it helps me feel rejuvenated. I want to be outside more and get after a bunch of stuff. As far as the pigs go, like it's just keeping them cool in the summer and fattening them up for fall. And just making sure they're happy, because happy pigs taste better. In the fall, it is time to get the pigs loaded and to the butcher. This year I'm going to 3 different butchers. So just sorting pigs and getting the right ones to the right place. About a month before butcher date, I brought them in from the pasture out there, brought them into the barnyard, and they still have access to about an acre of pasture that's right off of the barnyard. I have the trailer backed up to the gate and I start feeding them in the trailer so they're totally comfortable going in there. Yeah, pig, 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 pig! It's a lot easier if you can get a pig to willingly get onto a trailer and then kind of sort them out from there. That helps a lot. On loading day, I set out just a line of feed in the dirt, and so they all line up. And I can just get a good look at them and be like, okay, you're smaller, you're bigger, you know, and I have this many pigs that are going to go to the locker today, so I'm going to take the biggest ones, of course. And so, you know, I'm marking green means go for the big ones, and the pink was you get to stay for a couple more months. For tips as to how to sort in a confined space with pigs like that, you just kind of have to do it. You just get a sorting board. It's nothing special. It's just a sheet of plywood, fairly thick plywood. That board's pretty heavy. And cut some hand holes in it so that you can kind of change how you're holding the board if, you know, the need arises. But that board is your best friend when you're sorting pigs. Come on out of that corner. Just you. And you just got to kind of step in and look at how the pigs are acting, and where their head is pointed is kind of where they want to go. So if you can get their head pointed in the right direction and kind of just nudge them along a little bit with the board and get them to jump past you, you know, you just got to do it, you know, before you really get very good at it. It's a learned thing for sure. It's not intuitive. My preference is to get them loaded on the trailer the night before I take them to the locker. Take the stress out of it for the pigs and yourself. Day of, I'm gonna drive up to West Point and embarrass myself trying to back up the trailer. Once there, the locker, they're gonna ask for who are the customers that are buying these pigs and phone numbers. And so they're gonna call the customers that I have lined up buying these pigs, and they're gonna ask for that customer's cutting instructions. And then they're gonna talk about, you know, how much processing will cost, all their different cuts and curing that they can do, and how long it's gonna take. A day or two after I drop them off, the locker will call me and give me a hanging weight for each pig. So that's how I charge, by hanging weight. And then the processor's fee is separate and on top of my fee. So the customer will pay directly to the butcher for the processing fee. So the pigs I have left, I have 7 pigs left, and I'm gonna be taking them in 2 months, early December. For processing, USDA inspected. So I'll be able to sell it by a pound of bacon or a pound of pork chops or sausage or however, as opposed to the system I'm doing now, which is called custom slaughter, and that's like someone's buying a half of a pig or a whole pig. We're only like early autumn here, and I'm already planning for next year, and I've already got my locker dates booked in for next year. I have contacted the breeder that I really like, asked when he's going to have pigs available. He said he'd have some in some feeders in November and in February. I like having happy pigs that are accustomed to people, and I do everything I can to give them a really good, happy life. And right now they're going to spend an unhappy night on a trailer and have one bad day tomorrow. And that's the best I can do. And I think if you eat meat, that's about the best anyone can ask for. Well, this wasn't too bad of a winter. My last group of hogs went into the locker early December. From then until now, I haven't had any pigs, and it's kind of a luxury that I don't take for granted, that I have a couple of months off in the wintertime where I don't have water troughs that I need to keep thawed and animals to keep warm. So the custom slaughter pigs I sell direct market to customers by the whole or the half. So 100 to 200 pounds of a hanging weight animal. The ones in December were for USDA processing, and they are still in my freezer, and I'm planning to sell them by the pork chop or by the pound of bacon this summer at farmers markets. So the group of pigs that I had last year, the Mangalista, Tamworth, I forget what else they were. They were all this Franken pigs, this great mix of different heritage breeds. I really, really liked them. They did really well in this system, and I got them from a breeder in northwest Iowa, and I wasn't able to reconnect with him. So this group of pigs are a three-way cross of Duroc, Hampshire, and Spot. So once we get them here, well, before we get them here, we need to have space prep that's warm and dry and out of the wind, because they're probably like 25, 30 pounds right now. They're still pretty small, and they dogpile each other to stay warm. And right now they don't have enough, like abdominal strength to, if they get squished by their fellow pigs, you can squeeze their intestines out, and that's a big problem. And so you want to prevent that by keeping them warm, and if they're warm, they're not going to dogpile on each other so much. So I have a space in the barn for them where I'll close them up at night just to keep it warm, and I have several heat lamps set up, straw bedding, and then I have this year a new addition is an automatic feeder, which is really nice. So they have access to feed at all times. So the breeder I got these pigs from had them on feed pellets, and so that's what they're used to, and so that's what I'm using. And I will, in the next week or so, transition them to a ground organic feed, same stuff that I get from a local organic farm, and they grind it right there for me. So I'm gonna wait a couple of weeks just to let them work out any stress that they might have gone through in the move here and get comfortable here. And then I will start turning on my hot wire fence that I have inside of the barnyard, and that will be to train them. Like it serves no purpose right now other than to train them that it's there and what it will do for them or to them. And so that's a big thing. That's really important, because for my whole fencing system, it only works if the pigs are happy and know what that fence is for. And I'm going to keep them in the barnyard here until they're probably in the 45, 50, maybe even 60 pounds, so that they're high enough off the ground that fence can be high enough off the ground. Most of it is just waiting until the pigs are big enough to be cognizant of that fence. I most enjoy, that's a good question. This is like an existential question right now. I really enjoy it in the spring. I don't like keeping animals in a small space, but in the winter you just kind of have to. And But what I most enjoy is that first day when they get out on some pasture and they get to run around and frolic and just be the best pig that they could possibly be.